The German automotive industry finds itself at the center of a perfect storm in early 2025, facing what industry insiders are calling an existential crisis. Against the backdrop of global economic uncertainty, Germany's pride and joy, its automotive sector, is making headlines for an unexpected and potentially game-changing maneuver in the high-stakes chess match of international trade. For decades, the sleek sedans and precision-engineered vehicles rolling out of factories in Stuttgart, Munich, and Wolfsburg have defined German industrial prowess. Names like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen have become synonymous with quality and engineering excellence. But today, these industrial giants are fighting for survival in a rapidly transforming landscape, and their responses are sending shockwaves through global markets. President Donald Trump's recent proposal of a 25% tariff on European vehicles has hit Germany like a thunderbolt. The timing couldn't be worse for an industry already reeling from multiple crises. This is potentially devastating, explains automotive analyst Maria Schmidt. The U.S. market represents the last major refuge for Germany's premium internal combustion engine vehicles as European consumers rapidly transition to electric alternatives under EU mandates. The proposed tariffs threaten to choke off a vital revenue stream at precisely the moment when German automakers need capital to fund their expensive transition to electric vehicle production. With the U.S. accounting for approximately 10% of German auto exports and focusing heavily on high-margin luxury vehicles, the impact could be measured in billions of euros and thousands of jobs. In what many are calling an unprecedented move, Germany has reportedly begun exploring direct trade negotiations with Canada, potentially circumventing traditional European Union trade protocols. This dramatic step has raised eyebrows in Brussels and capitals across Europe. We're seeing something quite extraordinary here, notes international trade expert James Wilson. Germany appears willing to risk EU unity to protect its automotive sector that speaks volumes about the severity of the crisis they're facing. The German government's approach reflects the desperate reality confronting its automotive industry. The sector, which accounts for roughly 17% of the country's total exports and employs nearly 800,000 people directly, is facing what economists are terming a polycrisis, multiple severe challenges converging simultaneously. On factory floors, across Germany, anxiety runs high. Assembly lines that once represented the pinnacle of manufacturing efficiency are slowing down or shutting completely. Major manufacturers have announced tens of thousands of layoffs in recent months, sending shockwaves through communities built around automotive production. In cities like Wolfsburg, home to Volkswagen's massive headquarters, local businesses from restaurants to retail shops are feeling the pinch as workers tighten their belts in anticipation of harder times ahead. My father worked for Mercedes, as did his father before him, says Thomas Miller, a third-generation auto worker from Stuttgart. Now I'm telling my children to look for careers in other industries. The stability we once took for granted is disappearing before our eyes. The roots of this crisis run deep and in multiple directions. German automakers, long masters of internal combustion technology, have found themselves playing catch-up in the electric vehicle revolution. While they delayed fully committing to electric platforms, companies like Tesla established dominant market positions, and Chinese manufacturers rapidly scaled up production of increasingly competitive electric vehicles. Adding to these technological challenges, the German automotive industry is grappling with persistent supply chain disruptions that began during the COVID-19 pandemic and have evolved rather than resolved. Critical components, particularly semiconductors essential for modern vehicle systems, remain subject to unpredictable availability and price fluctuations. Now, with President Trump's proposed tariffs threatening to effectively lock German vehicles out of the profitable American market, industry executives are scrambling for solutions. One path forward involves accelerating plans to establish or expand manufacturing facilities in the United States, a strategy that would allow them to avoid tariffs, but would require massive capital investment at a time when cash reserves are already strained. Building or expanding U.S. manufacturing capacity isn't something that happens overnight, explains automotive industry consultant Robert Johnson. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar investments and timeframes measured in years, not months. Meanwhile, every quarter that passes with these tariffs in place would mean significant financial bleeding for these companies. European Union leadership in Brussels has publicly committed to presenting a united front against what they characterize as protectionist American trade policies. Plans for retaliatory tariffs targeting American agricultural products, technology exports, and other key sectors are reportedly being drafted. However, Germany's apparent willingness to explore independent solutions has complicated these efforts and created tensions within the bloc. The strength of the EU in trade negotiations has always been its unity, remarks EU Trade Commissioner Anna Moreno. When member states begin pursuing individual strategies, it undermines our collective bargaining power and sends a problematic message to trading partners worldwide. For American consumers, particularly those with an affinity for German engineering, the consequences could soon become apparent in showrooms across the country. Industry analysts project that if the 25% tariffs are implemented, prices for German vehicles could increase by $10,000 to $30,000 depending on the model, potentially placing brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi out of reach for many traditional customers. Dealerships that specialize in German imports are watching developments with growing concern. We've built our business around providing Americans with access to the world's finest automobiles, says Richard Thompson, owner of a luxury European car dealership in Connecticut. These tariffs wouldn't just hurt German manufacturers, they would impact thousands of American businesses and tens of thousands of American jobs in sales, service, and related industries. The crisis facing German automakers reflects broader challenges in the global automotive landscape. The industry is undergoing its most significant transformation since the introduction of mass production techniques a century ago. The shift from internal combustion engines to electric powertrains represents not just a change in technology but a fundamental reimagining of what automobiles are and how they're produced. For German manufacturers, this transition is particularly painful because they have historically dominated in precisely the areas that are becoming less relevant: sophisticated internal combustion engines, complex transmissions, and refined mechanical systems. Electric vehicles, with their simpler powertrains and greater emphasis on software and battery technology, play to different strengths. German engineering excellence has traditionally been expressed through mechanical precision, notes automotive historian David Chen. That's not to say they can't excel in electric vehicle production, but it requires different competencies and, perhaps more challenging, a different corporate culture and approach to innovation. The situation is further complicated by China's growing dominance in electric vehicle production and battery technology. Chinese manufacturers like BYD have rapidly scaled up production while driving down costs, creating intense price pressure that squeezes the profit margins German manufacturers depend on. Meanwhile, Chinese companies have secured preferred access to critical raw materials needed for battery production, giving them structural advantages that will be difficult for European manufacturers to overcome. Against this backdrop, Germany's willingness to explore unconventional diplomatic and trade strategies becomes more understandable. The automotive industry is not just another sector of the German economy. It represents the country's industrial identity and serves as the foundation for its export-driven economic model. Its collapse or significant contraction would have implications far beyond corporate balance sheets, potentially reshaping German society and politics for generations. As industry leaders and government officials work frantically to navigate this crisis, ordinary workers and their families bear the weight of uncertainty. In communities built around automotive production, there's a growing sense that an era is ending. My grandfather helped rebuild this factory after World War II, reflects Wolfgang Schmidt, a veteran assembly line worker. For 3 generations, we believed German cars would always be desired around the world. Now we're not so sure what the future holds. The outcome of this high-stakes standoff remains uncertain. Much depends on whether President Trump follows through on tariff threats, how effectively European leaders can maintain a united front, and whether German manufacturers can accelerate their adaptation to new market realities. What is clear is that the decisions made in the coming months will reverberate throughout the global automotive industry and may permanently alter the competitive landscape. For American consumers watching from across the Atlantic, the situation may seem distant, but its implications could soon be felt in dealerships nationwide. The German vehicles that have become fixtures on American roads, from the ubiquitous Volkswagen to the aspirational Porsche, may become significantly more expensive or less available as manufacturers adjust their global strategies in response to changing trade conditions. As this drama unfolds, one thing becomes increasingly evident. The automotive industry that emerges from this period of turbulence will look markedly different from the one that entered it. Companies that successfully navigate these challenges will likely be those most willing to fundamentally rethink their approaches to design, manufacturing, and market positioning. For German automakers, that may mean sacrificing some traditions in the name of survival and future relevance. The coming months will reveal whether Germany's bold gambit pays off or whether its automotive giants will be forced to dramatically scale back their global ambitions. Either way, the industry's transformation represents one of the most significant industrial pivots of the early 21st century, with implications that extend far beyond showroom floors to the very structure of the global economy.